Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. I am your host and beat reporter, and I've been your beat reporter covering the Jacksonville Jaguars for On SI every single day since August 2019, and we are continuing to move forward through yet another season together. As always, you can find our 100% free, 24/7 boots on the ground coverage of the Jacksonville Jaguars when you find us on social media, such as Facebook and Twitter, at Jaguars on SI. You can also find us at www.si.com/NFL/Jaguars. Alright folks, welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. I am your host and beat reporter. Today I am giving you guys my final prediction for the Jacksonville Jaguars this Sunday against the Tennessee Titans. Now obviously the Titans' record is what it is. They're a one-win football team. That win was a miraculous win, one of the most unlikely of the entire season. They have a few talented players. Jeffrey Simmons is one of the best defensive linemen in football. Liam Cohen went as far as, he didn't say he's Aaron Donald, but he at least, spoke of him in a similar breath. And Cam Ward is, I think all things considered, a really talented rookie. Like, a lot of times, I can be quick to bail from a quarterback early in their career. I rated Zach Wilson really highly. I was out on him very quickly. I was out on Bo Nix, which, potentially still unfair to him. I was out on Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold. Those two have kind of come back to bite me, but Cam Ward is not one that I am out on, despite his numbers clearly not looking good. One of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL in EPA per play in success rate, though you could also argue that these both are better used as unit stats and team stats. The Titans' offense is one of the worst in EPA per play per dropback, not Cam Ward specifically, because a lot of factors go into it. With that said, when I watch Cam Ward, I don't get the impression that he is this hopeless quarterback prospect. A la some of the other young guys who are struggling right now. J.J. McCarthy is one of them. I think Cam Ward has shown significantly more. But he has the surrounding offense that is amongst the worst in the NFL. Not a good offensive line. They can't run the ball. No skill players, really. It's a very tough situation to be in. So, I expect the Jaguars to win this game. I completely understand why there's some trepidation with some people. I don't think it has anything to do with the Jaguars on paper. I think it has to do with this has been such a volatile team, and also, two of their wins over the last month, in which they're 3-1, have came in overtime against last place teams like the Las Vegas Raiders, like the Arizona Cardinals. And the Jaguars, especially against the Cardinals, had a chance to break that game open. Jaguars in their loss to Houston Texans, it felt like I'd broken that game open. So, it's a Jaguars team that, other than, I guess you can say, Week 1 and the Los Angeles Chargers game, have not just put, the foot to the throat against an opposing opponent very often. Obviously, they've played very well in some critical moments against the Texans in Week 3, against the 49ers throughout Week 4, against the Chiefs in Week 5, against the Raiders and Cardinals in the last couple of weeks. They've made big plays in these critical moments. There is no questioning or debating that. What I think the Jaguars need to show this week is that they can just go through an opponent. Just simply show, from the first play to the last play, you're the better team. They did that against the Chargers 100%. And I was surprised because I do consider the Chargers a good team. They're a flawed team, but I think they're a playoff caliber team with a playoff caliber quarterback. So that's what I'm looking to see the Jaguars do this weekend. Why I don't think it's necessarily a sure thing is because I think a lot of Cam Ward is a quarterback. I mean, he can create with his legs. He'll make plays out of structure. Very aggressive guy. I think one of the best arms in the NFL. I mean, he just makes ridiculous throws. The thing with him, of course, is like most rookies, he takes some bad sacks, makes some bad decisions at times. I think if the Jaguars can continue to get after the quarterback the way they have in the last 2 weeks, where they have 9 sacks in the last 2 games, after just barely more than that amount in the first 9 games. If they can continue that this week, then I think that they are in for a solid ho-hum performance, like I was talking about at the end of the show. You know, if Josh Hines-Allen and Eric Armstead specifically can make those impact plays, can rack up those pressures. I mean, Hines-Allen has, I believe, 16 pressures the last 2 games. Eric Armstead has 5.5 sacks. Some of the best production of any defensive tackle in the NFL in terms of sacks and pressures. I mean, they've been their 2 best pass rushers this year. And I think each is capable of having another big game. And I think that's what the Jaguars need to happen. The Jaguars have the ability to make this a one-dimensional game, like Liam Cohen has talked about wanting, the defense to really do at the end of the day. They weren't able to do that in some of their losses. The Seahawks could still run the ball. The Texans could still run the ball. I felt like even the Bengals still ran the ball a bit on that last game-winning drive that they had. So, if the Jaguars' defense can shut down the run game, and I think they will. Jaguars have had a very strong defense against the run all season long, but especially in recent weeks over the last month. I mean, outside the Texans game, they've been pretty dynamite in that area. And obviously the Titans are going to try to establish a running game, and they do have some talented running backs, but their line has just been overmatched in the run game this year. That's been the simple fact. And to me, if the Jaguars can shut down the running game and force Cam Ward to drop back 30, 35, 40 times, that's where the Jaguars can create opportunities for sacks and for the pass rush and for potentially turnovers in the back end. I'm also interested to see how they use the defensive backs, more specifically the cornerbacks, now that Jordan Lewis is set to return. Do you just put Lewis right back in his old role? He starts on the outside when you're in base, goes inside when you're in nickel. Do you keep him outside even when you're in nickel so you can get Jarian Jones on the field? Do you keep Lewis in nickel and move Jarian Jones to the outside in 3 receiver sets? It's just hard for me to imagine that they keep Jarian Jones off the field. Maybe they have some kind of rotation with Greg Newsome. Regardless, I think this will be interesting to watch. And Lewis is obviously a big addition to the Jaguars defense after the last couple of weeks. The young guys have really played well in the back end. I think Jarian Jones has been fantastic over the last 2 weeks. I want to say he's PFF's 8th highest graded corner in that period. So, somebody who I really think is a solid player who has done some good things to the Jaguars this year. How they utilize him now that they are getting one of their key defenders and key leaders back will be interesting to watch from my end. Finally, for the offense, really good news, in my opinion. Getting Brian Thomas Jr. back, I think it could be huge for the offense. Just, they haven't had a field stretcher in these last 3 weeks since he's been gone. The passing game against the Cardinals, against the Texans, against the Chargers has felt very constricted. Everything's in the middle of the field. Everything is short to intermediate. I know Trevor Lawrence has hit, a couple big plays here and there. The 25-yard pass to Parker Washington downfield. Brendan Strange had a big catch and run. But I think ultimately, if the Jaguars simply just have the presence of Thomas on the field alongside Strange, alongside Washington, alongside Jacoby Myers. I mean, I think that's a really interesting group to work with just in terms of their skill sets. And I think Thomas can open things up for the rest of the offense. If Thomas can get hot and get back to playing at a similar level, maybe not back to that level, but at a similar level to the one he played at last year, he could be what this offense needs to really hit its extra gear over these next 6 weeks. The offense has moved the ball better since the bye week. It can't be denied. They're scoring points. They're getting first downs. They're converting in key situations. The turnovers have killed a lot of their numbers. It is what it is. But for an offense that's moving the ball well, I think if you're subtracting, say, Tim Patrick and his role from it and adding Brian Thomas Jr. to it, I mean, you can't convince me that Brian Thomas Jr., I know he's having a rough season, but that the guy from last year isn't there. I mean, that's who he is. He's a very talented receiver. He's capable of being a number one, a star receiver. And I think, obviously, Was he thriving at some of the things they were asking him to do? I don't think so, but I think if he comes back and can be used as a vertical presence, I think he can really open up things for the Jaguars offense. Thank you guys for listening to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. We'll be back next time.